I'm Robyn Crane, and this is the Growing Your Financial Business the Woman's Way podcast. Listen, I was a financial advisor for over a decade, and I got so sick of the old archaic strategies that your grandpa used to get clients. What the industry teaches today is still so outdated and just doesn't work anymore. So I had to find a better way for myself, and then I got obsessed with sharing these how-tos with other women like me. The stuff I teach doesn't require giving up your life, your sanity, or your family time. I want women like you to have it easier than I had it, so you can thrive in the industry. I've now helped thousands of women grow their financial businesses to multiple six figures, some even seven figures per year. So on this podcast, you're going to get an inside look at how they did it so you can do it too. Let's dive into the show. Welcome. I am here. Don't be shocked here. I am here with a dude no less. His name is Don Hilario. He helped me to remember that by saying he is hilarious, or at least one of us is here. And we are here. We're going to talk a little about morning routines and habits and how that will create better relationships with your clients and wherever the wind takes us. So it is kind of a nice, opportunity to have you on the show for both of us, because I usually have women and then I have like an occasional guy sometimes. And I only bring on guys because I think they'll bring some value. So obviously, my team liked you, that's for sure. And I know you're a CFP professional. You have been running your solo practice. And I love that you said this in your bio, that your greatest job in the world is fathering two daughters. Both girls are under 5 years old. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for remembering. You got it.
All right. Well, I am reading. I would like to take credit, but I am. And you've been with your wife for 9 years, a triathlete, Ironman triathlete, very, very cool. And you love to give back to the community. So a lot of amazing things here, and you own your own firm here. So, and where are you located? And tell me a little bit about your firm before we jump into all the other good stuff.
Yeah, I'm 20 minutes away from Disneyland in SoCal. So my practice is in Irvine, solo practice. And my niche is working with big tech, i.e. Employees from Google.
I know I just said we're going to talk about something else, but I actually, like, now that you said big tech companies and Google and stuff, I actually want to ask you this, because this recently came up on a call with some of the ladies that I work with, some of my clients. And then yesterday I was doing this 2-hour session. I do this Revenue Accelerator deep dive session with just a few ladies. And this came up again. And here's what it is. So one of the ladies, I talk about cloning your ideal client. Maybe you've heard some of that in the podcast. And those of you who've listened before, talk about how if you can just figure out who is that one person, and if I got that one person 10 times, I'd be able to reach or exceed my revenue goal. And I like that idea because then you don't have to work with anybody and everybody. You get to build your ideal business, have your ideal life. And it's actually a lot easier than you think, because if you go try to work with everyone, you're doing a lot more marketing. And if you just focus on working with this one person and finding them, it's actually a lot less effort. So just to get people up to speed here. But one of the ladies said, well, I said, so who do you want to clone? Like, if we can say one person and you can only get one person and get them 10 times and be able to exceed your revenue goal, who would that be? And she said, actually, it would be my father. And she told me about her father because I want to test this to see, does this make sense? And it turns out he is an engineer. I forget what kind of it, civil engineer, maybe, I don't know, some type of engineer. And I basically said, stop right there. don't clone him, because here's why. I feel like with the engineer type, there's a money type. I have these money types, and it's called a cheap chip. And cheap chips tend to, he knows what I'm talking about, right? Cheap chips tend to not want to, basically pay a lot of fees. They're very fee averse. They like to make slow decisions. They're research driven. They want to do things on their own. So that engineer tech type typically is not the easiest person to close as far as it comes to sales. So what I told this woman, because she's just starting, she's new. And I said, let's pick someone maybe in marketing who's more like, maybe what we call a delusional Dan, someone who's more, anything is possible. I want to make a lot of money, or someone who's like a spendthrift that likes to spend money versus someone who's like, I save a lot, but I don't want your help because I'm going to do it on my own. So my first question before we go into the routine stuff is, have you noticed that with the engineer type, that it's a longer process and it's harder to close, or have you not come up against that?
I haven't come to that, but I know the narrative of the whole, fee conscientious that comes from engineering. So, my response to that is, and my father was a civil engineer, so I can empathize. If you're going to own that,
an engineer, so I can empathize. That's why I know the money type.
Yeah. I think if you're going to own that niche, then excel in that. So I think of it like shadow boxing, right? So, and then, I'm never unafraid to be vulnerable. So for me, I even do this in my meetings, whether it's a new client or a client review. And I'll say, if you don't mind, when I'm telling you that, yeah, your performance is great or bad, right? And if it's non-engineer types, but they're big tech employees, and I'll say, hey, we're up like X%, and you're making money. It's ecstatic. You can feel that from the screen. Regardless if the portfolio is up or down, the engineer type, it's very, from my experience, it's very stoic. It's like, I can't read them, right? So it
show emotion.
Not show emotion.
That's how I grew up with my father. Although he's here, and he's very sweet, and he's more emotional now. But that is how I kind of experienced my father, is don't show emotion, and he seems mad. It's very much right and wrong. He actually said something to my kid yesterday that I was like, please don't say that. I shouldn't reveal this necessarily, but
I love it.
So my parents were here, and my son, who's 4.5, took 3 pieces of pizza. Now, mind you, this is a gluten-free pizza, and they're not that big, but he is 4.5, and he took 3 pieces. And my dad was like, he shouldn't do that, because he's probably not going to eat it all. And he said something like, that's not right, or that's wrong. And I was like, Dad, like, let's not use that language. And he didn't understand what I was talking about. And I'm like, I don't want him to think that taking more pizza is wrong. Like, let's have a conversation. Like, hey, honey, maybe, are you going to eat 3 pieces of pizza? Or how about you start with 1? Or how about you start with 2? And like, let's make sure we only take, we leave enough for the rest. Or like, let's explain the consequences and explain the idea of choice and explain why he wants to take that and have the conversation. But the last thing I want to do is be like, you are wrong, because that's kind of, and I told my dad, I said, that's how I grew up. And I see the world as like what's not working and what's wrong. And it's helped me tremendously be a great coach. And it's also held me back in some ways. And so I'm actually working on myself with the coach. So I'm like very aware of the language that we use. And I was like, can we not say that? And he's like, so you're not going to tell your son that it's wrong to kill someone. And I'm like, okay, I'm not saying that. Like, maybe I will explain it differently. I don't know. I haven't, explored this whole thing, Dad, but I can tell you right now, I do not want to tell him that it's wrong to take 3 pieces of pizza. Like, it's not like, he doesn't need to feel shamed for taking more than his share. And I'm totally fine teaching him a lesson. I'm totally fine having a conversation, but I don't need to shame him for taking too much pizza, so it was just an interesting conversation. Just like to shine a light on that. But anyway, just a sidebar. So you haven't noticed a big difference, except that maybe lack of emotion or shown emotion and stoicism. And are you mostly getting referrals though? Or are you doing cold marketing and getting engineers?
Referrals. I'm getting referrals.
That's what I would say is the difference. So like, these ladies are coming in, they got to build from scratch, some of them, and it's one thing if you're quote unquote cloning someone who's already in your book of business. And now you have, you're kind of known as the expert in that space, especially at Google, like then everyone's going to trust you. You already have that know, like, and trust factor. There's skepticism, but it's less because you have that expertise. And then, but if you're going to a cold market, which is one of the things I teach, I'm like, what I realize is don't start with engineers. It's just like a little bit of an uphill battle. So that's just one of my learnings. So anyway, let's let you actually have the conversation as well here, because I know I'm monopolizing, but tell me about, let's go to the morning routine stuff. So tell me about like, what do you do and how has it helped you with your relationships with your clients?
Yeah. First off, Robyn, you are spitfire. I love the energy. So I'm going to do my best to keep pace. I'm part like you of the 5 a.m. club, right? But for me, I need to wake up at like 4:30, maybe earlier, just so I have that half an hour buffer so I can debate in those first 5 minutes. Oh my gosh, this is the day where I'm going to just break my habit and just sleep for another, hour or so.
Have you read the 5-second rule? Have you read the 5-second rule? That'll save you.
No, enlighten me. What's
29 minutes and 55 seconds. So Mel Robbins has a book called The 5-Second Rule, and she talks about that in a lot of her talks. And so she goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you don't have to keep.
Oh yes, very good. Oh my gosh. See, so I know that strategy because I use that when I do my my Ironman training. When I'm done, count to 5 over and over again, and I'm doing it. So my morning routine, I call it protect my morning, is I literally wake up, right, and then the first thing I do is my phone is deliberately like at a walking distance, so I'm not going to be subject to checking messages and endlessly scrolling. Once I get up, I'm getting my headphones and I'm listening to something positive. I call it like daily fire, like something like, "Oh, you're awesome, Don," blah, 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 like feel good stuff, right? I'm groggy in the morning.
Backtrack a second. Does it say you're awesome, Don, or it's just that essence?
essence. Yeah. And I'm being dramatic so that this
No,
time.
but I like that. And the reason I asked is because I don't know if I talked about this on a podcast yet, but I recently did this with my high level clients, my femmes, and I created my own meditation, and
I love that.
it's the I am meditation. And so I did it's something like, I have the ability, the capability, and the drive to be, do, and have everything I want, and know that I'm, and so it's a whole this I. And then for 2 minutes, I have all these words, and it's like, I am empowered, I am grateful, I am, affectionate, whatever.
Cow.
And so I listen to that now since we did our FEM event a few weeks ago. And,
oh my gosh.
I am saying I am, it's not,
own it.
You are amazing. You are, but that's
I love
cool too. I want to do the other way. So I have someone like my own self, or maybe I'll have my husband do it. And it's like, I wake up and I listen to this. Robyn, you are sexy. You are beautiful. You are super duper hot. You are intelligent. You are brilliant. That would be even cooler maybe than the I am. Okay. Sorry.
Wow.
Great idea. That was awesome.
Robyn, kindred spirits. You and I are going to get along fine. That is fire right there. So with that, I found out, and tell me if you agree with this, that we are the most susceptible in the morning, right? We're just groggy and so forth. So our I forget whether it's alpha or delta brainwaves, but the best time to feed those types of affirmations is in the morning. So I got my headphones in, I'm listening to that stuff, right? Let's go what you're saying. Yeah, Don, you're pretty easy on the ice, maybe tall glass of water, whatever, right? Or not, whatever, right? So I'm being hypnotized to that capacity. And then I'm hydrating myself, right? I'm generating, about a gallon of water a day. Side note, props to you for doing that 75-day hard challenge. That is motivating, right? So
that was hard. See, I only did that once, and to reveal.
Once is good enough. Dude.
Yeah, I did that.
I remember that.
Even the 5 a.m. club though, seriously amazing that you're doing 4:30 and still waking up, because the day it was over. I mean, and I'm going to use the excuse of my children, cause they wake me up in the middle of the night. I'm still working on that. But, oh my gosh, it was not sustainable for me. And so now I'm like, if I can sleep in until 7:30, I'm thinking,
Dude, like I said, you were awesome. And then correct me if I'm wrong. You have 3 kids, right? Your youngest is the
yes.
4-year. Okay. Yeah.
No, youngest is 2.5, almost 2.5 now. Yeah. Wow.
So, and I only have 2, so I can imagine 3. And plus you're doing all these amazing things. So, me knowing that, right, about there's tons of talented people applying themselves. So I'm just trying to play my part. And like I said, get those healthy affirmations. I'm hydrating myself. And then, depending on the day, I'm making it a point to generate energy or exercise. I got a Peloton in the back, or depending on the weather in California, I'm either running or I'm at the gym. And then what I'll do is I'm working out early in the morning, and then in between sets, and I still got the affirmations in my headphones, I'm journaling. I'm making it a point to say, okay, who are the people who I need to be excellent with today? You're one of them today, right? What are sort of the things that can derail my momentum? And if so, what can I do to combat that? So I'm just, Stephanie Bogan calls it above the line, right? Working from an inspired state. And then after that, when I've already had my affirmations, I've hydrated myself, I've exercised, I've journaled, I take a moment like you to meditate, get that quiet time, and just know that, I'm not worried about, the next 5, 6+ days, weeks, months, years. I'm worried about today. And how can I just kick ass and be rooted in service? And then everything else, whether it's client reviews and whatnot, I'm just above the line. So there's, like I say, bring on the adversity. I'm good. Wow. I've protected my morning. If that makes sense.
That's amazing. How long does that take?
About an hour. If I really want to just take my time. Yeah, it does take an hour, because I'm working out for an hour, but it's action packed with all those tactics of intentionality.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, like I said, I'm, nothing to brag about here, because I go through phases, and what I will say that I've kind of committed to this year, since the beginning of the year, when I started the 5 a.m. club, I knew that the more I work on me and the better that I get, and the more I improve myself, the more I will grow my business, and the more just so much will come to me. The more I'll attract, the more I'll have what I want, the more, opportunities will come to me, and all those things. And so I've, definitely haven't kept consistent at all with the 5 a.m. club. That's for sure. And I don't feel bad about it. That particularly was not sustainable for me with my lifestyle right now. And I will say the one, and then what I have done, I just went on this expansion retreat last week. I'm working on me and improving me in all different ways, whether it's breath work, whether it's, I don't know, journaling, things like that. I don't do a lot of things like that consistently right now, but I'm working on me. And so I'm happy with that. And I think that still need way more me time. And I need to go back to that, because when I even was talking to one of my friends, I went to this expansion retreat and then I went to this mastermind, and I said, I had this, great conversation with my husband actually, where I felt like he finally understood me, and he said to me the other day, which it's been a bit of a journey to feel like he understands me, but you seem to really understand me, Don. Like you give me props. Like I'll just hang out with you a lot. Not that my husband doesn't, but he said, I understand how it must be really hard for you. You wake up, you're with the kids right away, you're working on getting them to school. Then you get to, you go, I typically go play tennis or something, work out. And then I get to the office, and then I'm, running this company, and then I'm doing the, and it's like, he stacked the day for me. And I'm like, wow, yes, that's how it feels. And then he's like, and then, you get done work, and I'm not done. I just stop. I'm definitely not done. I just stop, right? Big difference, right? Because at 5:30, typically, unless there's like a call or some exception, I am done, because I know I got to go get the kids, and then I got to make dinner. And sometimes my husband makes dinner, but most of the time I'm kind of in charge of making that happen. And then I go to my husband and I'm like, hey, when are you going to be done? And he's like, oh, in 10 minutes. And then an hour and a half later, he comes out. Right. And so he said to me, actually just last week, and he kind of rambled that off. He's like, you're doing this, you're doing that. And then he was talking about himself. So he's like, and then I don't even come out right away and be with you and da, 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 da. And he's like, I can understand how that can be, a lot and stressful. And I was like, honey, I was actually crying. My eyes were tears.
That's awesome.
Like, honey, I finally feel like you understand me. But like, I know men do it too, but I think like to some degree, women take a lot on, and we make it, put it on ourselves. And I was fake crying there, but it actually made me real cry. But like, I do feel like there's a lot of that pressure. And when I was telling my friend, I was actually bragging about how amazing my husband made me feel, because he finally, I felt like he really understood me. And she said, maybe you can stop work at 5 because you're never done anyway, and then have a half an hour to yourself. Now, I would agree that probably the morning would be better. And I'm at this stage right now, not willing to wake up any earlier than I have to with the kids, and all this stuff. But I do think like I've gotten out of a little bit of the me time and taking the time to journal and taking the time to think about my goals. And I still have a lot of great things happening. And if I did all those things that you're doing, I know I would have even more. So don't do what I'm doing, listeners out there. Do what Don's doing.
Oh, you took my no way.
But also, I would say for women, don't make yourself wrong, because I have the tendency to be mad at myself for not doing everything perfectly and doing everything how I quote unquote should. Because yes, wouldn't my life be amazing if I woke up at 5 a.m., except that I'll be tired as hell and a total bitch to my husband and my kids. So no, not amazing, right? So I guess my question for you then, to fire back after that lengthy story, is like, how do you find the balance, and how do you do that? And how do you stay consistent besides having that half an hour conversation with yourself that like, no, is today the last day or not? But how do you keep going when you have every reason to sleep in, and every reason to not journal, and every reason to do other things that have to get done, like respond to that email and reply to that client and call that person. And instead you take that whole hour to do things for yourself?
Wow.
Answer that, Don. Answer
that's
that.
Awesome. I can answer it in so many ways. What I really want to do is just 2 things: give props to your husband, major kudos, because Robyn, you are awesome. Oh my gosh. And the reason why I say that is one of the reasons why I'm able or willing to do, my Protect My Morning, is knowing that there are awesome people like you out there. And I owe it to myself and our industry to just contribute, to stay on top of our game. Because I know that what we do collectively, it can be super hard, right? Not from just a technical standpoint. You got the CFP, you can do standard deviation analysis, all that stuff, right? Or you can also focus on just what you were talking about, making it a point to work on ourselves, but not so that me and only me is good, but me, by taking care of myself, allows me to be excellent with the people I serve going forward. Mm-hmm. So when I was anticipating this podcast with you, I was really, I'll use a word like enamored or in awe with all your accomplishments. I love the humility and so forth, because I can't stress this enough. And I apologize if I'm being a broken record here. I think what you're doing is completely awesome. Like, you're empowering, women, if not, everyone, like the likes of me, because like you just said, right? not only are you super mom, you have one, not two, but three kids, right? And you shared on one of your podcasts how you were upstairs, and forgive me if I butcher this, but you were upstairs, you were working out, and then you don't want to wake up your youngest, so you put on headphones, right? Something like that. And what I'm thinking is, who else do I know like works hard like that, or harder than most? That's amazing. So yeah, I'm not gonna. This is my head trash. I'm not gonna be the one sleeping at 5:30, 6 a.m. If Robyn's going out there being awesome and she did the 75-day challenge, oh my gosh, I gotta own this. I gotta, be excellent. So you're motivating me, even though I haven't met you one-on-one instead of virtually. You are fueling me to be excellent. And hopefully what we're doing is also rubbing off with the people. Cause that's how I think. I don't believe in competition.
Well, I want to address that. Like, I really love, I mean, trust me, I love compliments. This is amazing. Like if I'm feeling bad, dude, I'm going to call your cell, man. Hey, Don, I'm a little insecure right now, man. Tell me how great I am. No, my husband is like that too. And he's really amazing at making me feel good. And I appreciate that. But I also want to not deflect in any way. Like I can't take the compliments because I appreciate that. I just want, it's kind of like social media. It's like, I'm not trying to hide anything, but it's like we put up things on social media when we're celebrating most of the time. And there was a time where I lost $60,000 and I was not celebrating and I was crying in my closet. And I put that on social media because I didn't want to only put the good stuff and I knew someone needed to hear it. So I'm willing to be vulnerable. And I also will say, when we hear that, and this is another reason why I love Mel Robbins, is like, we hear the stuff, then we think, oh, they're like that all the time. And that's all they do. And wow, look at how amazing. And then you're almost like beating yourself up. Like, I'm not doing as much as Robyn, or I'm not doing as Mel Robbins, or I'm not doing as much as Tony Robbins or whatever. And you know what? Maybe we are, maybe we aren't. And like, who cares? It's like, what can you do to be a little bit better? Because if we keep, putting people on a pedestal, I'm not saying you're doing that with me. I'm just saying like, I do that with others and thinking there's nothing that can knock them down. Well, when we really get to know them, especially the most successful people on the planet, they start being very vulnerable and telling the truth. And the truth is they're doing a lot of things that they wish they were doing better. They're doing a lot of things that are good enough, but they are holding themselves to a higher standard. But at the same time, there's always something they want to do more. And I'm just saying that because I think women listening like have the tendency to think, okay, like I'm like that too. I'm like all or nothing, right? 75-day hard, and it was like, I was all or nothing and I did it, and then 5 a.m. challenge. And then I did it, but then it was gone. And it's like, and I know how I work. Like if I don't have a challenge, I just did an ice bath at this expansion retreat and like a couple people, it was cool, but I did it once before and they're like, yeah, first time, usually 3.5 minutes. And I'm like, cool. It was freezing. It was hard. I'm like, like I couldn't breathe, so I made my first 3.5 minutes, but that was kind of like the challenge set out for me is like, if you can make it 3.5 minutes your first time, you're awesome. Right. And then this one now I had, I'm like, I know I can do more than 3.5 minutes. And one of the people who were there, my friend Julia, she was like, oh yeah, like I sometimes do 10 to 15 minutes. And I was like in my head going like, challenge accepted, Wow. So I got in there, and I got past the first, stage of breathing of like 1 to 2 minutes. Then I got to 5 minutes and then I'm like, 10 is not enough. She said 15. If she had said 20, I would have done 20, but she said 15. So I did 15 minutes in the ice bath. And then I'm like, that wasn't that bad. So that's the way I work is like, I like the challenge, but if I don't have a challenge, then I also stoop back into somewhat of a status quo or my routines and the not great routines, like you're talking about, the routines of whether it's sleeping in or the routine, unfortunately, of complaining or the routine of, getting up, frustrated or nervous or anxious, in the kitchen, which is a weird thing that I have, so like these things like I am real, I am human, I have plenty of flaws, and I'm saying that intentionally because what if I haven't been saying that and people think I'm doing all these amazing things when I'm not? And I know that's weird to say, but it's like, I want everyone listening to understand, like, give yourself permission to not be perfect and not be doing it all and still have an amazing life and keep striving to be better because it's the journey. Right. So thank you for saying all that. But I just wanted to tell people, trust me, I have a bundle of problems and challenges that I'm always working on to just improve myself. I just am not going to settle for status quo. That's the main thing. So one thing, so it sounds like that has kept you going. It sounds like there's people that inspire you and you see others, and that is actually good inspiration. What else would you say is really helpful for you to keep you going and to be able to show up for people in this way so that you can provide more value being the best you?
Yeah. So let's go back to that engineer type, whether it's civil engineering and so forth. So
this is called looping, Don. You're like closing the loop that I didn't even know was open.
I love it. Wow, Robyn, you are making my day. So what what works for me is before every meeting, right? Whether it's, like I said, like a client review or new client, just like my protect my morning, here's how I prepare right before I meet with someone. I ask myself, how can I generate what I consider like the top 10 emotions? And if I do that, cultivate that daily, it leads to greatness. So if I'm meeting with, say, an engineer or a non-engineer, non-Google type, I want to make it a point that whatever we talk about today, we're generating laughter, appreciation. I'm going to be cheerful. I'm going to be excited to catch up with them. I'm going to be determined to know what they're doing, what they're spending their time about. I'm going to be flexible in case we need to go off script. I want to be confident that I can contribute to their greater good. And I want to be strongly present in the moment, AKA vitality. If I can do, I think that's 10. If I can do all those things, the meeting is fun because I've already taken the time to prepare, the likes of like my 1-page plan, all that good stuff that we all do. But it's not so much the deliverables, it's how we show up. So the way I see it is, if I'm starting my morning the right way, protecting my morning, I got my routine for myself, and then I'm being intentional, meeting with each and every individual so that I'm making it about them sincerely, right? I'm not doing it like a hocus pocus kind of deal. And if I'm true to my game, again, I keep saying game because, it's a game we play to win, then what can go wrong? Nothing, because I'm being my authentic self. So if you break barriers with that, type civil engineer, and if he or she is experiencing that from you, it's a win-win. The worst thing they can say is, you know what, Don, you're not for me. Okay, good. Some will, some won't. So what? Who's next?
And then you go, peace out.
Oh, yeah. You know it. So that's what I do. That's what I do. And I hope, other people do that too. It's really about how we show up. That's what I think. And those are my tactics in place to emulate that.
It reminds me a little bit about, I did go to Tony Robbins' event back in the day. I mean, that was very impactful for me. And one of the exercises that he had us do was to list the typical emotions that you experience on a daily basis.
Oh, so good.
Emotions, and back then, especially, I was like, okay, well, let me get started here. It was a lot more than 10. It was like frustration, anxiety, fear, anger, a lot of, especially when I was building my financial business. I mean, I kept feeling like I was knocked down. I thought, woe was me. Like I couldn't do this. Like it was really, really hard. And then I noticed that I was choosing to experience these emotions that were really negative. And then he says, well, what emotions would you like to choose instead? And I'm like, well, joyful, happy, friendly,
awesome,
loving, all these things. But what he showed me is that, and the other 5,000 people in the room, when we were having a very private conversation, was
wow.
I'm kidding. No,
I believe you.
It wasn't private. I'm kidding. That was sarcasm. But what he showed me was like, my husband always says that he's like Tony was talking to me, but he just means he was talking to him and 10 to 12,000 other people at the same time. Back in the day, it was less than 5,000, but, anyway, so what it showed me was that I get to choose my emotions. And even with our kids, and this is kind of an interesting kind of new thing happening with me, but with our kids, it's like, hey, you have a choice. Do you want to choose to be mad or do you want to choose to be happy? And we have them choose. And then just yesterday, I'll give you a little bit of backstory because I'm on this training.
Yeah, please.
But with my new coach, what she told me is that with my processing of looking at everything wrong is that I tend to, especially with my background with now personal growth, is I tend to not experience the emotion. And then I try to trump it with the new emotion, because what I learned at Tony Robbins is I get to choose, instead of being sad, be happy, instead of being frustrated, be excited, or instead of being anxious, be excited, whatever. And so what she pointed out is that often I'm not experiencing the emotion, and it's because I'm making it wrong. No, I know better than that. I can change my state in a heartbeat. And so I don't have to be angry. I can be happy. Right. And so then I do that, but it's more like it's like fake it till you make it a little bit. I'm feeling a little anxious inside, but then I'm going to act excited. And so what she showed me is experience the emotion, experience it, but don't make it wrong. So which I alluded to earlier, is I have the tendency when I'm getting dinner ready to have a little bit of anxiety, to feel a little bit of anxiety, trying to get everybody, my oldest daughter is a vegetarian, my youngest loves anything spicy, so she'll eat whatever. And my son is basically a little bit picky now. And so it's I'm trying to get everyone the dinner that they will eat. Right. And then, it's just a lot to put together. So I make the spaghetti and meatballs, should be really easy, except I do gluten-free spaghetti. And then I do 2 different kinds of meatballs, and then I always have a veggie veggie. So it's like, but then sometimes my daughter doesn't want asparagus, but my son likes asparagus. So then
Holy
it's like,
cow.
I know, ridiculous,
Holy
right?
cow.
So you can understand why I'm ridiculous anxiety. But anyway, so what my coach helped me realize, and this is Kisma, I'll have her on the podcast, but she's, as a prosperity coach, if anyone wants to look her up, is that it's okay to experience the emotion, but instead ask yourself, how long do I want to experience this? But anyway, so experience the emotion. And so instead of making it wrong or trying to just trump it and change the emotion, I'm like, okay, I'm noticing it. I'm feeling a little anxious. And I say, all right, how long do I want to feel this way? Instead of saying, don't feel anxious. It's bad to feel anxious. You don't want to feel anxious. Be nice, everyone. Right. And so then I say, okay, I'll give myself 2 minutes. And so yesterday in the car, my son was he was mad about something. And so instead of asking him to like, do you want to just choose to be happy or do you want to be mad? And then he's kind of like, doesn't know how to choose it because he's kind of just mad. And so I said, well, how long do you want to be mad? And he said 2 minutes. I'm like, okay. But I start the timer and I'm showing him the timer, which he can see the circle on the iPhone, right? And I'm like, you got 2 minutes, honey. And then he started laughing because he's looking at this and he couldn't even stay mad for 2 minutes. And I'm like, okay, that's my new pattern with him. It's like, how long that works. Be mad? Yeah. So anyway, I love all these things that making me think of like cool stuff. But anything to add about that or anything else?
Other than, again, broken record. That's awesome. I mean, I totally agree with that. Like letting yourself feel whatever that emotion is, but then cap it if you choose to, and then allow yourself to go through the motion so that you're back above the line. Like, Robyn, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I like this above the line thing. That's cool. So that's Stephanie Bogan's thing. We didn't talk about that when I had her on the podcast, but she was great. I had this woman on the podcast, Deborah Smith. You guys can go back and see it. But she was like hardcore, super successful, with financially money stuff and just amazing. And she was like, I give myself 5 minutes. It wasn't this exact type of frame around the conversation, but she's like, I don't have time to be upset about things. Like I just got to move on. So I give myself 5 minutes and I tell my kids the same, you got 5 minutes, and it was like, it's kind of hardcore, but it was kind of awesome. You're like, I see why you're successful because you're not going to dwell on the crap, And I think like, again, bringing this full circle, it's like, it's not about, it's choosing the right emotions, meaning like choosing to feel like the people who are focusing on feeling bad and feeling woe is me and all this complaining how I used to be, that's going to just bring you more of that. Like law of attraction 101. Like if you don't know about it, go check it out. Right. But I think also it's this, women have this almost like this theory of I got to be perfect. I got to do all the right things. And I know I lived my life a lot in that frame. And I just want to say to all the listeners here, even with this amazing guy on the line here, is like, no, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, what can you do today that's a little better than yesterday? And if you change just your behaviors, your beliefs, your mindset, just 1%, then you're going to shift the trajectory of your life. And that's 365% better every single year. So like, it just compounds and compounds and compounds. And so taking your morning routine and these ideas, like there's a lot of good ideas. I can listen again and be like, okay, I can do this in the morning. Like, what if you just start and do it like for 30 days, like start a habit, and see how that affects your relationships with your clients, see how that affects how you show up, see how it affects your relationship with your spouse and your kids. And then like, can you keep going or is there something else that would be more beneficial? But I think these are all really, really great. So add anything. And then if not, just tell them where to find you. Cause you're awesome, man. You're awesome.
You're awesome.
You're awesome.
Oh my gosh. I need a mirror reflected back to you. Oh my gosh. No, I mean, I think I know what it's like to not do my routine and I feel the difference. Literally, it's like I feel like I'm more subject to feeling burnout and so forth. And I let the little things compound and it becomes head trash. But if I just stay disciplined and focus on my behavior and focus on others, not myself, I am good. And I keep repeating above the line, it makes such a difference. Because there's one thing to just meet with you and I'm being reactive. Okay, what are we doing? Blah, 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 blah. That's not me. That's not how I want to show up. So if I just, make it a point to work on myself like you, I am there. And I love how we're literally like bouncing off each other, the compliments and kudos, because there's one thing that I learned, we don't get to do that enough. I know as an advisor, it's very service oriented. Again, true to the game, right? But it's also important that we have the people in our lives, and for me, it's my wife, right? Who allow us to celebrate our wins. Because if I may, Robyn, like you are go, go, go. And I love that. I absolutely love that about you. And again, I give props to your husband for making it a point to say, wow, you know what? You do a lot. And you do. Like, again, this is my first time meeting you. I'm a fan. I'm like totally geeking out right now because I'm like, holy cow, like I'm showing up at Robyn's podcast. It's awesome. Hopefully I'm contributing. So yeah, I'm going to shut up right now because I know
you're doing awesome. And again, to put it back, like it's very, my husband does appreciate me. And I would say, we women also see what we do and then tend to not always see what, the husband does. And throwing it back to you is like, I know you're doing so many things for your wife and your family. And my husband, like, as much as I do all this stuff, like he does all these things, like I would not want to touch, like fix the pool and fix this. And so he's like, Mr. Fix It everything. And like change the water in the fish tank. And he's like, that took me 2 hours. And I was like, I'm not doing that, like I pay for it, but I'm not doing it, so there's so many things that like he does. And we all do, like, that's the level, like that's the standard. And I think a big takeaway too, is like, what standard are you going to have? Like, what is the level of play that you're going to play at? Because you're talking about this as a game, and I'm talking to the listeners now, but just like, as you're listening to this podcast, like, you can not play the game at all, which some people do, right? Or you can play to win, like you're talking about, Don, and I'm here to win. And that winning for me means transformation, as much transformation as I can possibly provide. And I have to just keep becoming that person in order to create that result. So, well, thank you. This has been amazing. Tell them where to find you, Don.
I'm at, you can Google me at hillpanmoxie.com. I think you'll find me there. Hillpan Moxie, HILPAN. And then the word moxie means like bravado and so forth. True story. So like
Moxie is my dog's name, by the way.
I picked that up. It said Mox. So I was like, oh, I wonder. See, I'm telling you, kindred spirits, right?
Yeah, and it's spelled the same. I did see that in your bio.
Yeah. If I may,
yes,
I'll
please.
In a minute. So because I get asked this a lot. Why is my firm name a long Hillpan Moxie? The email is even worse because it's spelled out. But when I was, I think 10 or 11, back in the 80s, my parents had a side gig and they owned real estate, right? And their group name was Hillpan. And then I told myself, okay, when I launch my own practice, I'm going to call it Hillpan to remind myself how hard my parents worked, my brother and I. And then when it gets hard, when it gets hard, right? Life and so forth, the word Moxie is going to remind me to, keep fighting, whether it's, my own head trash or fighting for the sake of my clients and so forth. So again, it keeps me, here's a secret word, above the line. So I've designed my practice to stay in my feelings and excel that way. And that's what I'm happy to share.
Let's see what Moxie has to say about Hillpan Moxie. Hey, Mox, let's see if she's going to be too tired to do this. Hey, Mox, speak. Mox.
This is adorable.
Hey, Mox, speak. Come on, speak. Come on, Mox. Speak. Oh man, my husband would be able to do that. That would have been really cool if like at the end I'm like, speak.
Oh, I would have bugged you for the video and included it in my website. Yeah, see, it works.
I could do it if I had a treat and if she was in the mood, but now she's just lying there going like, dude, you have no treat. And, I didn't pay for this. So no, you're not doing that. But,
Robyn, you rock.
So great to have you, Don. This was so
thank you for having me.
Fun. And thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time on Growing Your Financial Business the Woman's Way. I actually have the link for the tag challenge, the appointment generator challenge. So instead, you can just go to femalefinancialadvisors.com and register right now so that you can get 5 quality appointments in just 5 days. Now, this is not around, you having to talk to friends and family and get all awkward. This is not about you having to spend marketing dollars online or create a whole funnel. This is going to be easy. It's simple. It happens in 5 days. If I can get you 5 quality appointments in 5 days, then you know that you can have the best year of your life because you just need to get in front of more of the right people. We will walk through it together as we do it. So do not miss this. And if you're smart, do VIP, spend a few extra bucks, and you can actually spend time with me on Zoom where I can connect with you, get to know you, and really help you get those quality appointments so that you can grow your business. And go ahead again, register at femalefinancialadvisors.com. You'll find it all there. It's coming up very, very soon. So make sure to register, claim your spot, get in on this, get excited about it, block your calendar because you need to spend about an hour to an hour and a half a day with me on the Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so that you can get these results. And it does work. The most appointments I think we got in those 5 days, someone, I think it was Dana, got 33 appointments. So you can be my best student and go well beyond the 5 quality appointments. Go to 10, go to 15, go to 20, and set yourself up for the best year ever. Can't wait to see you at the Tag Challenge. See you there. Thank you again for listening to Growing Your Financial Business the Woman's Way.